Okay, so I just wanted to take the time to explain the concept of overstride. So I'll refer to overstride quite a lot on the Running Hub page, but not necessarily everybody understands that concept. So I just wanted to explain just a little bit about it and why it's so important to understand overstride. So what I'm going to do is use my software here, which is Dartfish, to try and explain this a little bit more. So this is Phil. Phil has given me permission to use his video. So this was taken a while back now, before lockdown. Phil hadn't done any kind of run analysis beforehand, so this was very new to him. And hopefully, I know he has worked on this a lot since our run technique session. And I think this was one of the things that stood out to him a lot, something he could really use to change and improve his performance. So I know he was really interested in this aspect of the run technique. So let's just start waffling and let's get Phil on the screen. So what we do when we're looking at overstride is look at the first point of contact here. So what we do is draw a line down from his hip, so that's Phil's center of gravity here. Now, we don't want him, we're not looking for him to land directly under his center of gravity. We're looking for 3 to 4 inches ahead. So we look at this here. Okay, and what we're looking at, has he gone into full leg extension, which he hasn't quite. There is a little bit of a bend at the knee. Okay, but we also look here at the angle of the toe. So he's landing heel first, but there is a difference between landing heel first with a low toe angle, so the toe is closer to the ground, and a high toe angle, but I'm not going to go too much into depth at that. So we're looking at how far ahead of the center of gravity does Phil land. Also, you can quickly tell, an easy way to tell if someone's overstriding a lot is that there's quite a big gap between the knees. When somebody lands closer to their center of gravity, the gap between the knees is a lot less. But also what we're looking for is ideally for the ankle to land underneath that knee, so the shin is vertical on landing, and that will give us a soft knee and less of an overstride. So what are the issues with overstride? So the further you land ahead of your center of gravity, the braking forces are going to be greater. So there's more pressure on the ankles, the knees, the hips, the lower back. And wherever your weak point is, that's what's going to take the brunt of the impact. It also means that if you're landing ahead of the center of gravity, you're going to be on the ground for longer. If you're on the ground for longer, that means you're going to collapse more. If there's any issues with the alignment of the knees, the hips, that's going to cause more issues if you're on the ground longer, because you've got more chance to collapse into those poor positions. So if you look again at Phil's center of gravity here, he's not going to accelerate until he passes that point. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then just as we start to go back now, that's where Phil will start to accelerate. But it's just to give you an idea of the further ahead you land, the longer it's going to take to get into that position to accelerate. And then you can see that if you look at the knees here, he'll start to bend more and more and more because he's on the ground for longer. So if we just look at the other side, he comes through here, starts to really extend the leg there, and then we have a big overstride with that locked out leg in front, and those braking forces are going to be much greater. It also has a big impact on speed as well. So if you're looking to improve your speed and you're looking to reduce your injuries and become injury free, then we have to look at overstride. So it's one thing that I spend a fair bit of time trying to explain to people and correct is this overstride. So thank you, Phil. Let's get me up. Now, I have worked on this a fair bit, and I had a lovely, great big overstride when I started doing this, and I was a very, very injured runner, which is why I got interested in this, because I love to run, and I was just I don't think there's a running injury that I haven't had. So I have worked on overstride a fair bit, so I just want to try and show you the difference. Let's zoom in a bit. So as that foot comes through now, instead of going into that locked out leg position, you can see that the foot comes to land, I've not quite landed, mid-foot. Now, I'm not going to go into a discussion about what's best, heel landing, mid-foot, forefoot. You can still overstride with a mid-foot and a forefoot landing. If changing that landing doesn't necessarily change where you land. I've seen lots of people still overstride and land with a forefoot position. So it's not to demonize heel striking. What I'm more interested in is where do you land in relation to that overstride. That is the most important thing. So let's get one more time. So coming through now and there. So you can see that there's not much of a gap between the knee. You can see that shin is vertical and the hips are nice and forward. And then we accelerate. So I'm not saying my run technique is perfect. There's still things I need to work on, but hopefully that just gives you an idea of the difference between someone that's really reaching out in front, locking out the leg and overstriding, and the difference between coming through and landing closer to the center of gravity, and why that is important.